add newly rostered students individually into the gradebook or drop transferring students from a gradebook, go to the dashboard to add drop students, which will display in red. Select all entering students, and any gradebook that needs to have students added will display. Click in the action column adjacent to the student's name, and a drop-down will display with options to add or do not add. Determine whether or not to add the student to your gradebook. To the far right of the form, two fields display: Start Date and End Date. These fields are used to determine the assignments a student is responsible for if they are transferring into or out of a class. Students added to a class after the class started may not be responsible for assignments previously due, or if a student is leaving the class, will not be responsible for future assignments in this gradebook after the end date. The student's gradebook start date will excuse the student from assignments due prior to the start date and will determine the first assignment the student is responsible for. For example, Darlene started the class on 8/20/2014 shown here, and will not be responsible for assignments with due dates before 8/20/2014. This date can be changed by clicking in the Start Date field. Select the appropriate action for each entering student until you have finished, then go to the bottom and click Save Changes. Students transferring out of a class will also appear on this window, under All Leaving Students. Select all leaving students, and any students who have been dropped from this class roster by the school office will display. Click in the action column adjacent to the student's name, and a drop-down menu will display options to drop or keep. Determine whether or not to drop or keep the student in your gradebook. If you are dropping a student, review the end date to close the student out of the gradebook. This will suspend the student's cumulative gradebook score and exclude him from upcoming assignments, only referencing the assignments the student was responsible for through the duration of his time in this class. For example, Christy's last day in class was 8/19/2014, and she will not be responsible for assignments due after 8/19/2014. Select the appropriate action for each leaving student until you are finished, and then click the Save Changes button. The Enters Leaves window is now clear, and we can close the screen and go to our gradebook. By adjusting the gradebook enter and exit dates, the teacher is able to control the student's average based on the time the student is assigned to the class. Notice Darlene is listed as excused for the assignments she missed prior to entering the class, but is expected to turn in the first assignment on 8/22. Christy has been moved to the bottom of the page in the Drop Student section, but her gradebook progress in this class can always be referenced by the teacher, the student, the parent, and administration during the school year. You can always manage a student's individual class date range under Manage Gradebook, on the Manage Students tab, or on the Scores by Students page for a specific student.